Welcome to Catalyst Conversations, a podcast from the Foundation for Evangelism, where we talk about evangelism, discipleship, and sharing the good news of Jesus Christ with a hurting world. Back in March, before COVID-19 entered our consciousness, we sat down with pastors and lay people from churches in Western North Carolina and Tennessee. We wanted to know how approaching church as an opportunity for life transformation might affect the way they planned worship. The conversations ran the gamut, but some innovative and inspiring ideas came out of our time together. We hope that this podcast series can help you start a conversation in your faith community. In this episode, pastors and lay people in the Nashville area talk about what evangelism means and how we apply it in our daily interactions.
Evangelism can be a problematic word or concept for many people. I don't know if you all have evangelism teams in the churches I serve. That wasn't the team folks were jumping up and down to join when lay leadership time came around. So first, just to start off, how would you define evangelism and what does it look like in practice? And it can just be, you don't have to raise your hand or anything, it just be a free flow.
Well, this is a question that we spent a lot of time on in our conversations with our leadership team. And I think where we're coming to is recognizing the importance of storytelling when it comes to evangelism. Not only feeling equipped and competent to tell your own story and how Christ is at work in your life, because I think the average pew sitter could not actually articulate that very well, but also being able to identify where Christ is at work in someone else's life and to speak that truth into their lives. And so one of the most powerful things I've learned over the past several years in this role is, and I think it comes out of the book, The Simplest Way to Change the World. And one of the tests the authors suggest when it comes to good evangelism is to ask, what is good news for this person? So we say good news, and oftentimes we mean that so generically, the good news of Christ. But what does that look like applied to someone's life? And so evangelism, at least what we're trying to claim and live, is really speaking good news into someone's life, whatever that looks like for them.
Sounds good. I'll improve on that.
I have been thinking about this, and this might absolutely be wrong, but I've been thinking that often when we think of evangelism, we're thinking about people who are not in the church, people who are out there. And lately I've been thinking about the people who are in the church who have not, I've been using the word living fully, like come alive to whatever gifts, graces, passions. And so I've been thinking about this idea of, for one, acknowledging that evangelism is actually, what makes it uncomfortable is you're entering other people's spaces, you're disrupting their lives, you're knocking on the door, you're trying to enter people's space. And that's thinking of the old way people used to do it, right? But I think, especially taking the mission statement of Christ UMC, and I always reference this, that word relationships. I've come up with one word for me for my church is making room, whether it's for people to have conversations or for people just to sit with me and talk, just trying to make space and room. And then I guess letting go of some baggage of the numbers thing that I want so many people in. So I guess the question is, what does it mean? I think for me, really, it's the whole idea of just making room to be with people out of my busy schedule, or just shutting up and making space for them to talk. So that's what I'm thinking about. Can I share just one quick thing? we had an opportunity. Oh man, this is very exciting for me. When I was at Brentwood, we were working with refugees a little. We started this thing. And then when I moved to my church, we have 40 kids who meet in that church to study, but they are with a nonprofit. We don't do anything with them. We don't talk to, we say hello, but they're just renting the space. We're hosting them. And one of the guys, a refugee pastor who has a church that's grown to about 100 people, started asking if they could meet at our church because the building that we're using was no more. And I started talking. I brought in our trustees chair and all of that. And we're so excited that this Sunday, he's preaching, our chair of trustees is preaching, we're co-preaching. I asked him to preach because he's so fired up about it. We invited the pastor to come with some of his congregants. We're going to exchange towels. We're trying to enter this relationship of ministry. I am excited that one way, form, or the other, these people, the refugee congregation is going to evangelize us. Their stories, their experiences. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is making connections wherever they are. And whether with people who are unchurched and church people, but those stories that can literally bring us alive.
So good.
I used to think that evangelism was something that a particular committee was in charge of and making sure that they had that covered. And now I'm seeing that evangelism is something that every disciple is a part of.
Absolutely.
So what is so good about Jesus and how has he touched my life that I want to go even deeper into that experience? And then I want to be able to articulate that to someone else and not invite them into a transactional approach to the faith, but for their lives to be transformed by this goodness of God so that they then can articulate the goodness and then tell it to somebody else. And that really excites me. I also realize how challenging it is because we all have to take responsibility for it. And yet, it's a beautiful thing because it's good is at the heart of it.
Yeah, just to build on what Kristen's saying, you say, what is evangelism? And most people would say, well, it's somebody else's job. It's there's a committee somewhere that does it. They can't get people to sign up to do it, whatever it is they're going to do. And therein lies the challenge. And of course, as we know now, we need to totally rethink how we do evangelism.
I think that triggers in my mind something that I've thought a lot about, and I think one of the core problems of the word evangelism and the practice of evangelism for people is that they hear it and they think that's something that you do, and that it's not something they want to do or something they feel comfortable doing or something that they feel called to do or that they feel like not everybody is gifted to do that. And it is boiled down to the fact that it's something you do. If we can reframe the conversation as it's how you live, it's part of every daily interaction in your walk with Christ, which really should permeate your life, then it's not something you do, it's who you are and how you are in the world. And I think that could help people feel more invested in the practice as just yet another spiritual discipline or spiritual practice that they add to their tool belt.
I'll be honest, the word evangelism, when I was asked to be on the hospitality and evangelism committee at Brentwood, that word has a very negative connotation for me. And so I kind of, to be fair, went into the meetings, and she'll probably tell you, very skeptical about like what exactly is it that we're trying to do here, because it so often comes with, I'm going to convert you, and I'm going to convert you to my way of thinking and my way of experiencing and my way of worshiping. And I think the more powerful piece is, I think what you were saying is, how can we be in relationship? And I think that's what people need now more than anything else, is a place to be in relationship with others and to find a sense of community. And so finding that one-to-one connection that's going to draw them in and give them a place in your larger context. I mean, Brentwood is so large. It's really challenging to find your place in a congregation that big, or to walk through the doors of, a church that's trying to grow and trying to build and not knowing what it is you can bring. So I think the whole connotation of what evangelism used to look like we've got to find a way to reframe it. And just about, again, being in relationship and finding your sense of community, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, I think we've all had terrible experiences where somebody was evangelizing and we say, oh, we don't have anything to do with that. Yeah, and then I also realized that we're at this place where the gospel is the good news of Jesus Christ, and we have to share it. You know, like if it matters to me, then I want to be able to share it in an authentic relationship with somebody, because community is so important, and we are shaped by this person of Jesus, and his kind of community is truly meaningful, and nothing else can be that kind of community without this kind of cruciform life in our center. That's so hard because we're all I mean, just the best word is scarred, you know, from those terrible experiences. And I wonder if it's a matter of kind of reclaiming this kind of sense of good news from the Acts community, or, you know, the disciples' lives, that can help us navigate this time. That's that we can put aside those practices that are harmful and come up with some creative ways that feel contextually appropriate and authentic to who we are and to who the other person is that we've made room for.
Well, and I think to tag along with what David said earlier, another piece of this making room for and relationship building, I loved what you said when you said we're excited to be evangelized by them.
Yeah.
And keeping it open, that it's not us that have this. I mean, we do have the good news, and we have seen Christ at work in our lives, but that doesn't mean that we don't have the opportunity for other people to share good news with us through that same story in a different way. And so thinking of evangelism not as something that we, the experts, do for all the poor, sad people that don't have this good news and we can share it with them, to think about it more in this terms of, well, when you make room for others and when we all belong, this good news is perpetually shared back and forth. It's that bonding.
Mutuality.
Yes.
I think for me that one of the things I've had to learn throughout life is that you know, I may have an idea of what evangelism is, and for me, and I may have this intellectual concept of what the good news of Jesus Christ is, but it's just the realization that it means different things to different people at different points in their life. If you had come to talk to me about the good news of Jesus Christ when I was 20 years old, I would be looking for something differently than I was looking for when I was 40, and now when I'm in my upper 60s. You know, I think so. My philosophy on that is getting to know people and listening to people. They will send you signals and cues about what they're looking for in terms of what this good news of Jesus Christ means. And, you know, hopefully we're at a place where we can pick up on that and find ways to articulate and respond to what they're asking us and what they're looking for and needing.
I think I'll share a quick story just in that context. So my parents moved here about 2 years ago now, and the question they get asked all the time is, where do you go to church? Not once has anybody ever said, hey, would you like to come with me? And that's a significant shift.
Wow.
People either just assume you already have a place of worship, or they assume that you are already connected somehow when you may not be.
Yeah.
And
Can
so
I get their phone number?
but I mean, I think that just illustrates kind of the divide, especially in our context here in this community. We just assume you belong somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is a lot of people either don't, or even if they're showing up somewhere, they still don't feel like they belong there.
Yeah.
And so how do you switch those little pieces along the way to create that space and that invitation? That power of invitation is so huge.
Can I add something to, you know, one of the things, I love the story of the Samaritan woman, the woman at the well. Like, for a lot of people, evangelism is for the here and after. They're driven by that paradigm of, so you don't perish, so you don't go to hell, so you don't. And I think the woman at the well does something that's incredible. Her story is about the here and now. Come, Let me show you the man who's told me everything I've ever done, who just made me probably feel different, who's just ignited me, who just put value in me, who just told a different story. And I think if we recaptured the here and now, we might actually get our people excited about evangelism and less about the afterlife.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Catalyst Conversations. We invite you to use this and our other episodes to start or keep a discussion going in your community. We hope they inspire you to begin building a culture of evangelism and discipleship to transform the world. Go to foundationforevangelism.org, that's all spelled out, or look for Catalyst Conversations wherever you get your favorite podcasts.